When Fred West was 27 years old, he met Rose, who was then 15 years old, at a bus stop. Of all places to meet, they met at a bus stop. So she'd just turned 15, she'd just had a birthday, and apparently there was an insatiable connection for bedroom activities, shall we say. And apparently he lavished her with gifts. Now, was it like that? Was it actually like that? I mean, she was still a kid and he was 27. I mean, lavishing her with gifts, this sounds a bit more like grooming to me than anything. So I'm not saying she didn't have a dark side, but it does feel at this point, it does feel like a grooming scenario. And he obviously had a lot of influence over her. That's just my take. They then went on, ding dong, wedding bells, to get married, and then moved into Cromwell Street in 1972, I believe it was. But things just got darker and things became more twisted. According to reports, their joint insatiable appetite for dark and extreme sexual activities grew. Rose then went on to begin work as a prostitute, and she began inviting men and women into their home for creepy games, if you like, sexual S&M. I suppose it's S&M, but like a really twisted, tortury type S&M. You know, there was no safe word. Fred would join in for threesomes, and they also watched extreme thick material of, and sadly, child abuse. They both then began their killing spree together. Before Fred had met Rose, he had already murdered 16-year-old another child, Anne McFall. Anne McFall had been a nanny to his daughter, Anne Marie. When Anne became pregnant in 1967, she disappeared, and her remains were not discovered until nearly 2 decades later. Rose then went on to kill Charmaine. Rena went on to question where Charmaine had gone. Fred strangled her for even asking. He dumped her mutilated body in Letterbox Field in Gloucester. These two sick bees would also abuse their own children. They lured back different people, many young women, to their sordid sex dungeon, which was in the basement of their home. And I'm going to show you a picture of this, and it is dark and it is dingy and it's creepy. It is creepy. When police did excavate the home, they found in the dungeon, the beams, they found holes drilled into the top. So these victims had been strung up and bound and tortured, and I am nothing against consensual, soft S&M, if you want to call whatever it's called, but yeah, kidnapping people, luring them to a place, literal real torture, and all sorts of horrific things, and murder. No. It does make me feel sick to the stomach, and I can't imagine how horrifying that must be to have been one of their victims, being their children, and those, knowing what's going on or what's going to happen and not being able to do a bloody single thing about it. I can't begin to imagine. Even Fred's own lawyer reported how sickening the crimes were and the instruments that they used. I mean, these victims were found in all kinds of places, buried within the home and outside the home, you know, with things tied around their necks and devices up their noses. They'd only been able to slightly breathe, and they'd either been, tortured to death, strangled, just died through pure neglect, and that they'd just been hanging there for so long. It just makes me so sad. What they went through, it really, really does. And he ended up, Fred West, committing suicide. Just his easy way out of everything that he'd done. Their brave children went on to give evidence at the trial. And, Anne-Marie, May and Louise, their daughters, even went on to describe the horrific abuse that they were subjected to by their own parents, where they were tied up to a bed and abused by, both of them, by their mother and father. It just doesn't, you just can't get your mind around it. So my heart goes out to those children, and any children that have been abused or even suffering from abuse. Anne-Marie also went on to report that she was regularly humiliated by her own mother, Rose. Mother, I don't even like to use that word. She does not deserve to be called a mother, and she would sneer at Anne-Marie, and she would laugh, and apparently Fred had kicked her in the mouth with his steel-capped boots. It's just horrific. Dr. Julian Boone, a forensic psychologist, later said that their methods, the things that haunt me the most, was a mask that had nothing but 2 holes so the person can breathe, but they can't see and they can't hear. That was what one of the psychologists had reported, that can't imagine how horrific that is to go through that. The sick as couple, over a 20-year spree, had killed at least, it's reported, 12 people. But again, often, like in many of these cases, there's many more victims, because they'll often be luring back the vulnerable, people who need somewhere to stay, or need food, or just comfort. I mean, some of the victims had reported that they just seemed like a nice, just friendly, normal couple to begin with. So Fred's depraved desires apparently emerged when he was only 12 years old, and he told police that this was encouraged by his own mother. And apparently his own mother encouraged him to take part in acts of bestiality, which Fred's brother denies happening. Fred also told them that he was trialed for the R-word of 13-year-old girl who relatives went on to say was his own sister. He also said to them, well, doesn't everyone do it? That's how sick and twisted his mind is. So the trial was dropped over her death in 2006.